Well, let's go straight back to our main story, that search for the submersible that's gone missing near the wreck of the Titanic with 5 people on board. Well, joining me live now is Rear Admiral John Mauger from the US Coast Guard. Also with me here in the studio is our science correspondent, Jonathan Amos. But let's go straight back to the Rear Admiral. Thank you, first of all, for giving us your time when it is so valuable on a day like today. But in the first instance, bring us right up to date. What is your latest assessment?
Thank you for the opportunity to come on to the show today, Matthew. This has been a very complex and difficult case for all of us. But as we continue to actively search for the submersible and the people on board, our thoughts are with the crew members and the families who are, I can imagine, having a very difficult time at this point. And so we're working very hard in a unified command structure with U.S. government agencies, including the U.S. Navy, with Canadian agencies, including the Canadian Coast Guard and the Canadian Armed Forces, and then also with private sector entities, including the Ocean Gate expedition. And we're focused on bringing all assets available to bear on the search for the submersible. This has happened in a remote location off 900 miles off of our coastline here in Cape Cod, but within the Coast Guard 1st District search zone. And so we have prioritized efforts on both a surface search and then a subsurface search.
Yes.
And so we have 2 vessels, remote operated vessels, remote operated vehicles that are conducting subsurface search, and we have aircraft and surface vessels that are conducting the surface search at this time, Matthew.
I'll come back to that in a moment, but let's talk about the noise that was picked up by the P-3 aircraft. I've read that it is standard submariners practice to bang on the hull at the top of the hour, at a half hour, perhaps for 3 minutes. So were the noises that were detected, was that a one-off, or was there any sort of pattern detected?
So we're working very closely with leading acoustics experts, both here in the U.S. Navy and the Canadian Navy. And I've integrated a UK submariner into my command here in Boston, thanks to the support from the UK Consul General here in Boston, Dr. Abbott, to make sure that we have the expertise that we need to understand what that noise signature is and what it's telling us. While that analysis is going on, though, we're not waiting to target remote operated vehicle operations in the areas that the sonar buoys tell us that that noise is potentially being generated. And so we've relocated our remote operated vehicles on site to search in those areas. But at this time, I don't have any confirmation of what the noise is.
But to be clear, Rear Admiral, was this a one-off, or was it something persistent?
So the sonar buoys have been flying, or the P-3 aircraft, Canadian P-3 Aurora aircraft, have been flying and dropping sonar buoys. And we've picked up noise signatures on those sonar buoys, and we are working through the analytics on that while we're already retargeting the remote operated vehicles to search in those areas.
But you say plural signatures, right? Signatures. You heard something more than once?
So the sonar buoys pick up a number of noise, and so we're looking at all of the information that's come in through the sonar buoys to understand what that is. But again, retargeting the on-scene assets to focus in those areas.
Right, but it was well, it was sufficiently interesting, put it that way, for you to say, right, we need to narrow a search over here to go investigate that.
This is a really complex search and rescue case. My title and my lead prosecutor's title for this is the Search and Rescue Mission Coordinator. It's a reflection that we don't have all of the assets and expertise in the Coast Guard to prosecute a complex search like this. And so we've brought in a unified command team of experts from the U.S. Navy, from the Canadian Navy, from other agencies to understand and act on the information that's available to us.
I'll ask you more about that in a second or two, but before I do, let me ask you, in terms of on a human level, give me a sense of what it is like, given what is at stake here, given the timeline, the time pressures you're working under.
Yeah, our crews, the women and men that are working the response to this case and coordinating search and rescue and logistics operations are just doing an amazing job across both the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Canadian Coast Guard, the U.S. Navy, the Canadian Armed Forces, and out in the private industry, the commercial operators that have deployed on scene. It is really a remarkable effort. They're motivated by the chance, the hope to find that submersible and the people on board, and we're motivated by the family members because we understand how difficult that this is for them as well. And so we're working really hard around the clock to bring our capability to bear on this search and hopefully locate the submersible and the people.
Talk me through the practicalities of that, because you've said that it's an incredibly challenging, complex task that you're facing. Effectively, you've got two operations going on, haven't you? You've got a search on the sea surface, you've also got a search underwater, and actually if you locate this vessel, you've then got to try and get it up.
There is a complex series of operations that are going on right now. Our focus is on that search piece because we have to first locate the submersible and the people. And so we've had aircraft flying over the area. And they've searched an area that is roughly the size here in the U.S. of the state of Connecticut, because if this were to, if the submersible surfaced, it would be caught in the surface currents and winds, and over time that expands quite dramatically. We have good math and calculations to look at that, but we've been flying in the air with multiple aircraft. And then we've been prosecuting the subsurface search as well. Yesterday, we had ROVs operating off the Deep Energy and the Scandi Finland. And today, those ROV operations continue. And tomorrow, we'll bring in even more operations later into the evening, or later into the night and into tomorrow morning, to increase our capability. And so there's a lot of things at play here. In addition to that, it's focused on mobilizing all that gear to support the search. Earlier this week, we loaded up two C-17s with remote operated vehicle gear, with trailer load or container loads full of remote operation vehicle gear, delivered it to St. John's, got it on a vessel of opportunity, and got it out to the site. And so there's just a tremendous amount of work that goes into this, but we're really focused on that search piece and have the right experts to prosecute that search.
Rear Admiral, do you have a timeline now for when you think oxygen, all things being equal, will last on the sub?
So based on information that the operator provided, they indicated that they have an emergency life support system on board to provide oxygen for approximately 96 hours. I understand that that is a difficult calculation to predict because it's based on the number of occupants and their consumption. But we are looking at a period of time about 20 hours from now into tomorrow morning that we may be at the end of that 96-hour window. That said, we are continuing to put all available resources into the search right now, and we'll continue to prioritize the search as we go forward.
And presumably, because time is so short, you have to game plan every scenario. If you find that sub in the next 20 hours, you're going to have to react to different situations, and you need to plan for those now. You know, if it's like this, this is how we react. If it's like that, this is how we react, so that you can do things as fast as possible.
We have experts. While our unified command is fully focused on the search, we have experts that are working those different scenarios, and we've mobilized gear on site. We have lift capability in the vessels that are on site now. We have additional lift capability coming in. The Navy has mobilized a submerged object recovery system that they have. And the Canadian Armed Forces have mobilized a recompression chamber with medical support. And so we're preparing for contingencies while remaining laser focused on the search for the submersible and those people.
Rear Admiral, just a couple of final questions. A difficult question, first of all, because you've got so many variables as you've taken us through. Is there a chance that these sounds that you've been talking about send you in the wrong direction? It's not them, but you've pivoted the search.
This is a incredibly complex search to conduct. We're in over 3,500 meters of water column there in an area that's remote, 300 miles from Newfoundland and 900 miles from my coast here in Cape Cod. And so there's a lot of tremendous complexity involved. The way that we're trying to manage that complexity is by, bringing in all of the data that we can, and that's why we have P3s launching sonar buoys, and we're reacting to that. But we have a Canadian Coast Guard vessel on scene, the John Cabot, that has sonar capabilities to look at the bottom as well. And so we're using all of those capabilities to try and paint the best picture of these complex operational conditions for the experts that are planning and coordinating and executing the search.
And an equally difficult final question, how optimistic are you?
So at this point, we have to continue to search for the submersible. We had a chance to talk to the families last night about all of the work that we've been doing, and we understand how difficult this is. We understand from the emergency life support system that there is a possibility, and so we are prosecuting this to the fullest of our ability, bringing as many assets as we can to bear on this, and different assets, so we were able to collect different information and be prepared for contingencies as well.
Rear Admiral, we're going to leave it there, but we're extremely grateful for your time, and obviously good luck with the remaining search. Thanks so much for joining us here on BBC News.
Thank you, Matthew.